The opinions expressed on the Custody Queen Show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal, professional legal advice. The persons discussed are fictional and not based on actual clients.
Thought it was love, had kids in between. You can count on us, we're the Custody Queens. Yeah, you can count on us, we're the Custody Queens.
Rise and shine, everybody. It is Saturday, and we are back with Judge Jackson Lucky for another amazing episode.
Yes, and this is Sam McBride, and we're also here with Lindsay Fonseca, who is our newest attorney in our LA office. We're very happy to have you both.
Hello.
Howdy, howdy.
All right, so let's get right into it. I don't want to waste any time. I want to get the first episode. If you have not been able to hear it or watch it, I encourage everybody. It is a great show with Judge Jackson Lucky. And Judge Lucky is also part of ADR, which is
Alternative Dispute Resolution. And basically that's keeping your case out of court if you can.
So tell our listeners kind of how do they reach you? How does this involve you? What do they need to know about ADR?
Well, first I'll talk about what it is and then how to reach out to me or my case manager. But ADR covers anything that's keeping your case out of court. So it can be mediation, which is one of the things that I do, which is just sitting down with parties and their lawyers and seeing, hey, is there an agreement that we can reach? But we also do things like private judging or what we call court references. So let's say that you have a case that's particularly complex, particularly sensitive, you'd like a more private forum. You can actually agree, if both sides agree, to reference the case out to me or one of my colleagues, where we serve as the judge on your case, but we do it at our office. And so we do have to give notice to the court, we have to follow the court procedures, but the atmosphere is a little more relaxed. It's in a private building as opposed to in a courthouse.
And do you have a tea cart? Is there a coffee cart?
No, but we do have hot lunches a lot of the time, and sometimes cookies in the afternoon. So that can work out. I don't. Although I'm trying to figure out whether I have to, because normally I would think that I would. And there's a government code section and a rule of court that says that when you're performing a judicial function, you wear a robe. But then when I was first doing a private judging gig, I said something about the robe, and the people looked at me like I was crazy. So I don't
Show up
think
on your first day with a robe.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to be the weirdo who said, "Hey, here I am," and people said. So another aspect of what we do in ADR, though, is neutral evaluation. And I think that this is something that I don't see as much in family law, but we do it in certain cases where you use the judge as somebody to review, like your motion work. We do it in jury trials where sometimes we'll do mock juries and preside over the case. And advise the attorneys on, well, if I was the judge on a case like this is what I might do. And so in the right situation, I could see a family case having that. And if you are interested in my participation in private judging or mediation or court reference or neutral evaluation, the company with whom I work is called JAMS. Used to stand for Judicial Arbitration and Mediation Service, but we have a lot of non-judges now who work with us. So we've shortened it to JAMS. We're at jamsadr.com. And my case manager, her name is O Montealegre. So it's, but she's the only O. So if you get in touch with our organization, JAMS, and ask for O, then, and I'm the only Lucky there. So I'm easy to find.
O and Lucky.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny because I have another person who works with me whose last name starts with a Q, and so I have O as my case manager, and I have Q that I work with, and I feel like James Bond of the ADR world.
And we will post all of this information at the bottom of the screen if you are watching, so that way you can get the exact information that Judge Lucky is going over right now. And for anyone that wasn't able to listen to our last episode, Judge Lucky, how long were you a family law judge for?
I was a family law judge for 7 years and a judge for 13.
So it is an absolute treat to be listening to the show, hear about his journey, where has he been, where is he going, what is he looking forward to. But we will provide all of the contact information on the screen for this episode.
So Judge Lucky, how did you get involved in ADR?
Great question. So I say that I'm the Johnny Bravo of the ADR world. So for those who are old enough to remember, there's a Brady Bunch episode where Greg Brady was tapped to be Johnny Bravo, a teen pop star. And he thinks he's talented, but then at the end they tell him it's because you fit the suit. And so I was at a function doing a presentation, and somebody from JAMS, my organization, came to me and said, have you ever thought of working for us? And I said, no. And they said, why not? And I said, well, I don't know what I would have to offer. And they said, oh, you have the right personality. And then the next year, I'm at the same event, and I see the same person, and she says to me, have you thought about what we talked about last year? And I said, no, I haven't. And she said, why not? And I said, I thought you were just being polite. And she said, no, you have the right personality. And I had a couple of other people tell me that. And finally, I thought, well, maybe I should look into this. And my wife was going to be retiring. I wouldn't be eligible to retire as a judge for about a decade after she retired. And so I was just, and my father at that time was in very poor health, and I just wanted to be with him. He lived with us at the time, and I found out that working in ADR would give me a lot more flexibility to work from home and set my own hours and spend time with my wife and my father. And it's worked out beautifully because it has the great things that I loved about being a judge, which is helping people resolve their disputes. And it gives me the flexibility to be with my family a little bit more.
I could imagine that being, a judge through the court system would be a pretty rigorous schedule.
It is. Depending on the assignment, and family law definitely is one of the more rigorous assignments, but you're really tied to being there for the public. You can't just say, well, my kid's got a soccer game, so your trial on custody and visitation is going to have to wait, right?
Another 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I like the flexibility that I get because, you really have to make sure that the cases that you have are getting taken care of. And with private cases, since I have fewer, I have the time to really devote to those cases and still have the time to see my family a bit more.
And I can tell you over the last, few years, I have seen even just our firm utilizing those resources more and more with some of the budget cuts through the courts and court reporters and staffing issues and just the length of time it takes to get a trial date. I'm seeing it used to just be, maybe people that wanted more of a private atmosphere, but now just sometimes a trial date's a year out and then you get closer and you're waiting for, something. It can take years. And so I do see the benefits becoming more and more.
Yeah. And, especially knowing that potentially you can take a client to someone who is a seasoned family law attorney in our area of practice is a huge deal, especially if you have a really complex legal issue. You might have a newer judge and be looking at not only cost, but time until trial, as Kristen was saying. And sometimes you'd be surprised how effective some of these outside solutions really are at settling your case, or even if you're doing private judging.
I think that that's something that is super important because I understand that the cost of having some other professional involved in the case, right? You're already paying lawyers, maybe forensic accountants, maybe custody evaluators, and your poor clients are thinking, what, you want me to pay the judge too?
Right.
But I think that there are some economies in a private ADR situation, in private judging, that maybe people don't realize. So
invested in the situation? That would be my main thing to point out. You're so much more invested than, like you said last episode, you see him for 15 minutes and you might have had a few minutes to read the paperwork, but that's it. Privately, you're a lot more prepared, I would assume.
I like to think so. I tell people when I'm doing their private cases, I said, look, I didn't deal with 25 cases this morning and I'm trying to squeeze you in an afternoon. You're my only case all day. You're the only thing that I read last night, and you have me all day for as long as you need. And I think that is a luxury that I have. It's not that family law judges are doing a bad job. They have higher volume. The other thing is that, as Kristen said, sometimes you're out for a year. And so paying your attorneys and forensics over that time, as opposed to being able to get into a private judge and get your hearing done in a day, yeah, you're paying a little bit more on the front end. But we've all seen that situation where you're supposed to have the afternoon for your trial. You go into the department, the poor judge is trying to get rid of the cases from that morning. Your 3 hours that you were supposed to have is now an hour and a half. And then it gets continued, as Kristen said.
And the judge is cranky because, because their morning calendar took 2 hours of their afternoon.
Which can happen.
And the lawyers are cranky.
So, and then the clients have to pay for everybody to get geared up again on that second court date. And so when you know that you have somebody all day and you can just grind out what you need to grind out that day. If you need to go later, they can go later because, the courts have to send people home, their staff's home. But when you're dealing with a private judge, that person can stay, and there isn't somebody or a union contract or something like that might get in the way of being able to get the case finished in a day. So there are some, I think, considerations as far as the finances go where if you do it right, and it requires good attorney preparation, because if attorneys aren't prepared, then it does blow out of control, right? But if the attorneys are prepared, the experts are prepared, and you have a good private neutral, you can knock that thing out rather quickly.
Yeah, and I just eat peace of mind. I mean, some of these cases, Sam and I have a couple that have been years, and it's like, I know that I have been educating clients a lot more about this issue because peace of mind for me of waiting for a result to happen year 2, 3 versus just getting it done with. The outcome is going to be the outcome, but watching your clients pay attorney's fees bills every month and just the uncertainty and the emotional roller coaster. And like you said, you show up to court, there's a new attorney or something is carrying over from the morning. And we have new judges every 2 years. And I give a lot of credit to all of our judges, but sometimes it does take the newer judges time to get caught up to speed. I mean, how many trials have we done, Sam, where you're hoping the judge remembers what their notes are 4 months later because that's when the new date is, and the credibility of that witness.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it goes back to just the nature of trying to settle the things you can and keeping control over the things you can. And so that is one huge benefit, I think, to ADR is there's still, even if everyone's trying to do their job in court, there's still a lot of room for things outside of your control, like a trial getting kicked too far and, a judge maybe not totally understanding the issue in the case. So to be able to cut out some of those things in the right case.
And discovery issues. Yeah,
and you could actually, even though it is an additional cost, you can actually save a lot of money over the life of your case because you're not having to update your forensic, you're not having to issue more discovery. You can really get ready to go and then go. And you'd be surprised how frustrating it is as an attorney to be ready to go and then not go and have to continue it on and sort of evaluate your whole case. So I think it's great.
No, I do too. I was actually on a kind of a panel, and I think it was when JAMS was expanding to San Bernardino and they were getting feedback from attorneys. And I was very impressed with the feedback or the information that I got, and I was hoping I provided feedback to them. But I definitely think there's a lot of benefits to it. For me, I'm someone that a lot of time living in the uncertainty, the unknown, the fear. It's so much easier to deal with the issue, rip the Band-Aid off, get the result, and figure out how we move forward from here. Versus living in the limbo of, well, what is the judge going to do, or is this attorney going to cause a bunch of excess attorney's fees by doing X, Y, and Z. Let's deal with it. Let's get the diagnosis. Let's deal with it. And how do we figure out where we go from here? But I also think that there's a couple cases that I think that we could definitely use a neutral. I think you were saying the neutral, kind of to give a third party. I think that's on family law cases. I think that there's a few that would be very, very helpful on.
Yeah, I think. Again, if the scale makes sense, right? But there are family law disputes that involve 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure estates, and having somebody look over, hey, here's our motion work, or here's the strategy that we think, or does this kind of argument resonate? And having a neutral set of eyes take a look at it who doesn't have an interest in the outcome, I think, can be helpful. And then in the more traditional context, normally as Kristen said, you go into a courtroom and you get who you got for that case. And that person could have been a family law judge for a day or for 13 years. Could have handled many, say you have a move-away issue, could have handled many move-aways, or this is that person's first one.
Calls it La Musca?
And so, you know, when you have that situation, the idea of, I have to reach an agreement with the other side on who it's going to be, but we get to handpick the person who's going to make this decision, right? Somebody who you've had experience with, or at least you get a chance to look at their resume and say, yes, this is the person that I want. It's a lot more like choosing your lawyer than it is, you know, just kind of a random choice that you get. And the law has some mechanism to allow you to get rid of a judge that you think won't be fair in your case, but doesn't give you the way to pick the judge who you think will make the best decision in your case.
Yeah, and some of the newer judges, you know, I give it to them because from my understanding, some of the training is a very limited amount of time. And there's family law is a beast. You know, it is ever changing. And I said La Musca a minute ago because if you're doing a move away case, that is one of the most profound cases that is involved, but it's pronounced La Mouche. And I actually had an attorney say that to me not too long ago, and I, you know, didn't want to embarrass, but I was like, hey, it's La Mouche. You know, I didn't want them to say it on the record because I wanted to prevent that embarrassment. But sometimes some of these newer judges have zero family law experience, and it can be challenging. It can be challenging.
Absolutely. I was one of those judges. When I came into family law, I had no family law experience, and I did my best to hit the ground running, and I hope that I provided good service to my community in doing so. But it's hard, you know. It's hard emotionally. It's hard intellectually to get up to speed on all the things you need to do to be an effective family law judge. And then that's setting aside calendar management and understanding how do you get through X number of cases a day on a consistent basis and still give people that opportunity to be heard, which is now, again, my great luxury because you're my only case today. I'm going to listen to what you have to say.
And then you have the DVs on top of it where you have, you know, the statutory limitations. And yeah, I give a lot of credit to judges, but I am seeing more and more the benefits of ADR.
Yeah, I mean, and just the reality in family law, like Judge Lucky was saying, the volume of cases is, you know, and the limited resources that we have, it's not necessarily out of control, but it's a lot. I mean, when you think about going into a family law situation and there's 25 cases on calendar, that's not a lot of time in a day, and you're probably being heard in the morning. It's probably not a lot of time in a day to truly get everything you need to get across. And if you want a fair decision, then a lot of times, especially in Riverside, if there's a factual dispute, you really need to set it for an evidentiary hearing, which is more time, more money. And so it goes on and on. So Kristen and I, and Custody Queens in general, and I know Judge Lucky joins in this, you know, we really want everyone to think critically about your cases, and maybe it is a case for ADR, maybe it is a case for private judging, and ask those questions, get those consultations. You can reach out to us at 1-800-419-7772. That's 1-800-419-7772, and we can go through all those options with you.
And even if you choose ADR, it does not mean that you can not choose the best lawyers, because it's even more important, I think, in those situations to really have a very competent lawyer and firm behind you, especially if it's a complex case, because they're reading every single line. Now, I'm assuming in ADR that you would actually rule on the evidentiary objections that we prepare.
Yes, you know, I think that, again, because I have the luxury of time that I didn't have, although I hope that I ruled on every evidentiary objection when I was a family law judge as well. You know, but sometimes when you're looking at those objections as you're a judge dealing with those, if it doesn't really affect your decision, then the law allows us some flexibility on ruling or not ruling on them, although I think best practice is always to do so. But yeah, I think doing this on a private basis and saying, well, for better or worse, they're paying me by the hour to read through these 100 objections. I tell folks all the time, you can write as many objections as you want because you're paying me to read all of them. So, but back to what you were saying about having great lawyers. I think in a private ADR context, it is so important because if you have lawyers who are unprepared, and a lot of lawyers are very well prepared, but if you have one that's not well prepared, not only are you paying for that lawyer to come back again because they weren't prepared, but you're paying that private neutral to come back again. And depending on the neutral you pick, we're not cheap. And so you want to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck. And it's very disappointing to me, and I've actually had these conversations with people face to face, and I've told them, look, my daughter's in law school. You're paying her tuition. I don't want you to. I want you to pay your kids' tuition, right? And sometimes they still come back. But I try to let people know, I want to get paid. I want to get value for my services, but I also want to provide you the best value possible. And that is bring me things that are well prepared so I can rule on them efficiently. And so you're not paying double, triple for me to come back and look at it again.
I agree with all of that. There's nothing more frustrated when you do all that work and then you show up and someone's not prepared and it has to get continued for, you know, you were a stickler with continuances, but I always appreciate it most. I think there was one or two that
continuances. I'm telling you, to this day, I'm like, I'm in the car going, I got good cause. I got good cause. Going to court.
Wasn't there something in your speech about recycling and trees and... No, am I mixing up judges?
You might be mixing up judges, but I'm going to steal that.
I was like, I vaguely remember something about wasted paper, recycling, and trees. But
that one of the reasons I was so strict on continuances is I try to never forget that for the lawyers and the judges, for us legal professionals, it's another day at work. For the clients, it's another day they have to take off.
No, and you would always say that, and it does. It rings true. A lot of these people have to go through a lot of red tape to get a day off, or they don't get paid for that day. And for us, it's, you know, we can usually make it work pretty easy or send another attorney.
Yeah, and two, if you think like if someone's alleging a safety issue, okay, now I have to wait 10 more weeks before I can address that.
Or if they're flying out, you know, like they're from another state, that's becoming more and more.
Absolutely.
Now, okay, so here's a question. Let's get real here. So when an attorney says, you know, I just want to make the record, Your Honor, or we file a writ or an appeal, do you take it personally?
Me personally, no. I don't think that most...
is kind of known for that.
You know, here's the thing, and I've said it in a couple of cases. I don't think any particularly in family law, but in criminal, I would say it to folks where I would say, look, if you think I'm wrong, I really do want you to take me to the Court of Appeal. It's more important that we get the right decision than to feed my ego and make me feel smart. And there are times when the Court of Appeal affirmed me and I was pleased with the result. There were times where they reversed me and I maybe was less pleased. But again, trying to always keep perspective. What's the reason I'm doing this? If I'm in family law, it's to do justice and help families and to get to the best result that I can get to. If I'm getting to the wrong result, whether I think I'm right or not, then the parties deserve to have me get it right. And so I never take offense. Some of my colleagues might.
I was going to say I would like to get the global consensus.
But for me, sometimes I wasn't happy with the reasoning in a reversal. Sometimes I wasn't happy with the reasoning in cases where I got affirmed. And so there is where I struggled a little bit. If I was unhappy with how my colleagues in the Court of Appeal reached their result, then I was like, you know, not too happy with that. But as far as the parties went, or the lawyers, I was never unhappy with them for, hey, you know what? We want to get this right, and we don't think you did. So by all means, get somebody to get it right for you.
Because we do have an appellate division at our firm. We have actually attorney Ron Funk, who is a duly certified appellate specialist and family law specialist. I think he's like one of 6 in the state. And so we do have the ability to file writs and appeals fairly easily. It's definitely a conversation that we have with clients on specific issues or rulings, and obviously there's the cost-benefit analysis. But we, you know, there's a couple that we have hit pretty hard recently, and I always wonder, I said, I really hope most judges don't take this personally.
I don't think most judges do. I'm sure that there are some, everybody's a little bit different, but I think most judges understand that what you're trying to do is get the best result that you can for your client. And if you're a parent or somebody who has a financial dispute in a family law situation, then obviously those are your dollars that are at stake, not mine. And so keeping that perspective that they're your kids and your dollars and not mine, and you have skin in the game and I don't, those are the things that I try to keep in mind.
And if you have a family law issue or case that you are wanting to speak with an appellate attorney, we have attorney Ron Funk. You can give us a call at 1-800-419-7772. He is a dual certified family and appellate specialist. And that is something that we offer at our team at Custody Queens. And I just have one last question because it's gone so fast, so we'll have to have Judge Lucky back next year for for whatever is new with ADR. But if you were giving anyone, just parents, advice that are going through any family law case, whether it's a new case, they're trying to modify something, they're divorcing, is there a piece of advice that you would leave them with?
Yeah, I would say take the Hippocratic Oath when it comes to your kids, and first do no harm. I've talked to a lot of kids in my family law cases. I had the opportunity recently to speak with some adults who had gone through a significant family law case 25 years ago as little kids, and hearing the impact that it had on them. And what I realized was that the adults in the situation, the parents, the lawyers, and the judges, we don't appreciate what's going on with the kids. We think we do, but we really don't. And I think that parents have a hard time setting aside things like their time or their relationship with their kids. And if I can urge parents to do anything, think more about your kids, think less about yourself. It's really, really hard, but I think your kids will benefit from it.
And if that does not make you feel a certain way, I don't know what will. Because as someone in a healthy and happy marriage, I know that there are times where I need to be reminded of that as well. It's not just for people going through a separation or divorce, it's for us as humans, that we truly don't know the impact of these little humans and their brains, and they are our future. And I needed that reminder, so I appreciate it, because there are times where you've had a long day and things have not completely gone my way, and I may overreact in front of my daughter or my child, and I need to be reminded that I need to always put the kids first. So if that doesn't make you feel a certain way, then come back for more. But we hope everyone enjoyed this awesome 2-part series with Judge Jackson Lucky. I feel honored and blessed to have him be a part of this, and I look forward to many more shows with him sharing his expertise and his love, and just really making us all understand the process a little bit more.
So thank you for joining us this Saturday and every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. on Go Country 105. And lastly, remember, let love rule.